I opened my private estate to the public, requiring verification of funds for entry and demanding a certain social standing. I didn't discuss this with my wife, Emma Johnson, wanting to surprise her on our wedding anniversary. But when I went to the estate that day, I ran into Ashley and her friends at the estate's gazebo. The woman with a phobia of germs was washing a man's feet. Upon seeing me, she frowned, a look of disgust on her face. "Ryan Thompson, how many times have I told you? Don't try to infiltrate my circle. Is this even a place for you?" Her best friend quickly reminded her, "Ashley, that's too much." But her other friends scoffed. "What's too much? Someone who comes from the estates has a certain status, and what is he? Ashley won the lottery by marrying him. What's wrong with saying a few words to him?" Ashley seemed even more embarrassed and pointed at me, saying, "Get out." The man whose feet she was washing suddenly stood up, walked over to me, and said with arrogance, "So, you're the maggot who took advantage of my absence when I went abroad?" I chuckled. "Took advantage, yes, but who's the maggot is up for debate." "So, you're the maggot who took advantage of my absence when I went abroad?" Jake Williams walked up to me, full of arrogance, as if I were an ant in his eyes. I knew that he was Emma Johnson's childhood sweetheart, and they had always maintained a state of almost but not quite lovers. In other words, it was ambiguous. Later, after Brandon's failed confession, he went abroad. At that time, Ashley and I were at the same university, and everyone was saying that Ashley had been dumped by her childhood sweetheart. She never explained or admitted it. Moreover, she was the one who actively pursued me. I liked her looks and her indomitable spirit. I was also touched by her enthusiasm and persistence, so I agreed to be with her. Before that, many people had pursued me, but I was poor and couldn't afford to date. I was also busy with my star tup, so I rejected many people. When I accepted Emma Johnson's confession, there was another voice. They all said that I was wearing Jake Williams's hand-me-downs. They also said that Ashley was pursuing me only to prove herself by winning me over, since I was difficult to get. I didn't like to hide things, so I asked her about it face to face. At that time, she snuggled against me like a kitten while half asleep and asked with some displeasure, "Since when is a virgin considered a hand-me-down?" That sentence completely dispelled the rumors. Because when she was with me, Emma Johnson was indeed a virgin. Later, Ashley and I dated for 4 years. After graduation, her family opposed our relationship and even kidnapped me, slamming bundles of cash in my face, telling me to take the money and get lost. I didn't take a penny from them, and Ashley rescued me later. She even threatened to kill herself and simply dragged me to get a marriage certificate. I could see the intensity of her love for me, and I could see the deep affection in her eyes. So, from that moment on, I told myself that I would be good to her for the rest of my life, give you my heart and soul. Later, my business succeeded. 3 pay-to-win mobile games made me a fortune. But every time I wanted to share it with her, she would say to me, "We run in different circles. I won't share my circle with you, and you don't need to share your success. It's enough for us to love each other." She even refused to have a wedding. She bluntly said, "Ryan Thompson, no matter how rich you are, in the eyes of my family and people in my circle, you are not good enough. So, there's no need to have a wedding. I don't want you to be embarrassed." Over time, I stopped sharing with her, and she never cared about my career. But at that time, I thought she just didn't want me to be embarrassed. But now, it seemed that she felt I was embarrassing. Looking at her hands that had washed another man's feet, I felt self-deprecating. She said she had a phobia of germs, so I didn't let her do anything that would get her hands dirty. But now, she was washing someone else's feet. This man was someone she had an ambiguous relationship with. I took a deep breath, then chuckled, and said to Jake Williams, "Took advantage, yes, but who's the maggot is up for debate." Brandon raised an eyebrow. Are you saying I'm the maggot? Before I could speak, Emma Johnson walked over. She pushed me on my suit with her wet hands, pushing me back a few steps. Ryan Thompson, this is not a place you're qualified to be. Go back. Emma Johnson's voice was cold, as if she were driving away a dog. I took a deep look at her and said, then have fun. I wanted to tell her that this publicly accessible private estate was mine. If I weren't qualified to be here, then no one was. But I held back because it was meaningless. I had already decided to divorce her, just to save her some face. Seeing that I was leaving, Jake Williams immediately chased me out of the gazebo and blocked the entrance of the pergola. Since you're here, let this hillbilly broaden his horizons. Jake Williams looked at Emma Johnson and asked, Ashley, you wouldn't refuse my suggestion, would you? I looked at Emma Johnson, thinking that she wouldn't deliberately leave me here to be humiliated, would she? Then stay. Emma Johnson surprised me again. Since that's the case, I'll stay. They press the start game button, so they have to keep playing this game no matter how it goes. Do you know what this is? This is a gazebo. In ancient times, there were regulations for it. Not just anyone could build one. It's the same now. Take this Thompson manor for example. You need to have your funds verified to get in. Your net worth must exceed 100 million, and you must have a certain social status. Jake Williams spoke eloquently, his eyes full of mockery. Ryan Thompson, I want to know, how did you get in here? I know you've made some money, but a merchant with such a strong smell of money has no social status. You can't get into Thompson Manor. He walked up to me again and said, Ryan Thompson, you didn't get in here using Emma Johnson's name, did you? Relying on a woman to enter this kind of place? You're disgusting. I didn't even bother to pay attention to him. Instead, I sat down on a chair and said in a calm tone, I'm the owner here. Otherwise, why do you think this place is called Thompson Manor? My words instantly silenced everyone present. Then, someone burst out laughing. After that, everyone here laughed. Emma Johnson glared at me and said, Are you satisfied now? I told you a long time ago, don't try to infiltrate my circle. You just wouldn't listen. Now others are embarrassing you. Are you happy? Emma Johnson, I really want to ask you, are you feeling sorry for me being embarrassed, or are you feeling embarrassed by me? I asked back with a smile. Emma Johnson was stunned for a moment, then said with some embarrassment and anger, You're the one who's wrong, and you still want to blame me? Oh, you're right. I didn't want to explain because it was useless. Jake Williams had already run to my side, laughing and patting my shoulder. Ryan Thompson, you're the biggest bullshitter I've ever seen. You said that this Thompson Manor is yours. Seriously, I admire you. Because no one else would dare to brag like this. I spread my hands helplessly. I'm telling you the truth, but you don't believe me. I have nothing to say. Enough! Emma Johnson roared as if she had lost a lot of face, then pointed at me and said, Ryan Thompson, I don't like your attitude. Apologize to Jake Williams right now. Immediately! Let's skip the apology. I smiled and said, How about this? Since you value Jake Williams so much, I'll withdraw. I'll find a time to get a divorce. I wish you a happy marriage. As soon as these words came out, I saw Emma Johnson's face turn pale. Jake Williams clapped high. S hands and said, Ryan Thompson, I didn't expect you to say these words. It seems you, lowlife, know your place. Ashley was supposed to be mine anyway. No need for applause. Everyone replaces old shoes that don't fit. I smiled. Old shoes? Emma Johnson's face turned even paler, and her eyes were a little red. She looked at me in disbelief and said, Ryan Thompson, say those words again? You want a divorce? You're saying I'm old shoes? Isn't that so? I said calmly. You said you have a phobia of germs, but you were washing Jake Williams's feet. Let me ask you, have you ever washed my feet in all these years of marriage? It's not what you think. We were just playing a game. I just lost. Emma Johnson quickly explained, but her eyes were full of panic, and she hid her hands behind her back. Whatever, I don't care anymore. I said with a smile. I know everyone here looks down on me, thinking that I'm from a self-made background and can't compare to your privileged status. So, after Emma Johnson and I got together, you couldn't wait for us to get divorced. And some of you have said similar things in public, saying that Emma Johnson should be with Jake Williams. Now your wish has come true. Those who talked behind my back were not ashamed of being exposed. Instead, they looked very proud. A man named Tom Davis even walked up to me and said, "You knew this a long time ago. Why didn't you get a divorce sooner? Weren't you just trying to climb into our circle? But you should take a look at yourself. Do you deserve it?" He had always been Jake Williams's lackey. When Emma Johnson and I were dating in college, he deliberately said many good things about Jake Williams in front of me, even saying that Emma Johnson shouldn't have betrayed Jake Williams. If it weren't for Emma Johnson's sake, I would have bankrupted him long ago. I smiled sarcastically. Tom Davis, the CEO of Starlight Games, who distributes several FPS pay-to-win mobile games, has made a little money, right? Tom Davis was stunned for a moment and frowned. What do you mean by this? What do I mean? Since you're so shameless, don't blame me for making you uncomfortable. I didn't say anything. I just took out my phone, dialed a number, and said after it was connected, "Ava, Starlight Games is distributing our subsidiaries' games. If I remember correctly, there are additional clauses, such as we can terminate the cooperation at any time if their operations violate our creative principles, and the other party needs to pay liquidated damages, right?" "Yes, Mr. Miller." My assistant, Ava, said. "Then immediately terminate the cooperation with Starlight Games and claim damages." I hung up the phone. My words silenced everyone again. If I said Thompson Manor was mine, they definitely wouldn't believe it. Because they always believed that the person who could run Thompson Manor must have a very high status and background. It could never be a self-made businessman like me. But they believed my phone call just now. Because they all knew that I started my business in the game industry. Tom Davis was stunned for a moment, and his voice trembled as he asked, Are you saying that the company we're cooperating with is your subsidiary? But why couldn't I find out? My company's equity structure is very complicated. How could you easily find out? I sneered. Jake Williams said coldly, "Ryan Thompson, have you thought about the consequences of doing this? You're offending our entire circle." Emma Johnson also restrained her emotions and said in a firm tone, "Ryan Thompson, don't mess around. I won't allow you to attack my friends." Emma Johnson, shut your mouth. If I weren't so sure that you once loved me very much, even your company would disappear. I said coldly. What? My company? Emma Johnson was dumbfounded. I glanced at her and said, "Your cosmetics company doesn't even have a decent product. Who do you think would invest in you? Do you think angel investors are angels? They're venture capitalists. Who would invest in you except for me? I didn't tell you because I knew you were strong and didn't want to discourage you." Emma Johnson was at a loss. Jake Williams said nonchalantly, "Ryan Thompson, do you think you've won by messing with our business? We don't have businesses, but we still have social status and connections that have been maintained for 2 or 3 generations. What do you have besides business? Now that you've touched our business, I can make your business disappear directly." Emma Johnson said again, "Honey, don't make trouble. Listen to me. Don't touch Tom Davis." I smiled and said, you started the game. I accepted it, so don't think about ending it easily. At this moment, Jake Williams's phone rang. He picked it up, looked at it, and his eyes lit up immediately. He glanced at me provocatively, then answered the phone and turned on the speakerphone. "Uncle Stanley, have you arrived? We've been waiting for you for a long time. We're counting on you to introduce us to the mysterious owner of Thompson Manor. I'll be there soon. That's all for now." A middle-aged man's voice came from the other end. "Jane, hurry up. Don't be unwilling. No matter what you do today, you have to win over the owner of this Thompson Manor." I like that young man. He forgot to hang up the phone at the end. Jake Williams put away his phone triumphantly, his smile even more arrogant when he looked at me. "Did you hear that? Robert Brown of the Sunnyvale Green family is coming. He's very close to the owner here, and it looks like he's going to be the owner's father-in-law. What are you going to fight me with? Impossible." I waved my hand and said with a relaxed expression, "I have a good relationship with Uncle Stanley, but I didn't like his daughter. She's too wild, and I'm not even married yet." My words made them burst into laughter again, but I didn't care at all because they were too narrow-minded and Old C too little. Emma Johnson quietly came to my side and leaned in to whisper in my ear, "Please, honey, stop making trouble. They really can make you lose everything." I turned my head and looked at the face that was so close. She was still as beautiful as when I first met her, and her eyes were full of worry. But could I still trust her? What angered me was not Emma Johnson washing Jake Williams's feet, but her attitude towards me. Like her friends in her circle, she had stereotypes about people like me from self-made backgrounds. And they always had a sense of superiority over the elite, which I hated. So, even if today's incident hadn't happened, Emma Johnson and I would have divorced sooner or later. I was even grateful for this catalyst, which allowed me to end the wrong relationship sooner. At this moment, two people walked into the pergola. The one in front was Robert Brown, wearing gray casual clothes. The Green family is a scholarly family in Sunnyvale. 3 generations of grandparents, including Olivia Green, the 4th generation, are professors at Sunnyvale Law School. Although they never entered politics or engaged in business, they had many prominent and successful former students and had a very strong network of contacts. Robert Brown and I met when I saw him playing chess in the park during my morning run. Seeing that he was skilled in chess, I played chess with him, and later we became chess friends. Over time, we became close friends. He didn't know that I was married, so he wanted to introduce his daughter to me. And his daughter, Olivia Green, on the surface, is a pure and innocent young professor, but in reality, she is a wild woman who wears stockings, drives fast cars, and drinks heavily. I have to admit that this woman is a fox spirit. She doesn't need to deliberately seduce people. Maybe just a casual glance can steal a man's soul. "Uncle Stanley, you've finally arrived." Jake Williams immediately put on his shoes and went to greet Everyone else, including Emma Johnson, went to greet him. Tom Davis glared at me fiercely and said, "You think you can control me with business? But let me tell you, the Green family's connections are beyond your imagination. The mysterious owner here is even more powerful. When I get in touch with him, you can just wait to die. I've already said that Thompson Manor is mine. Why don't you believe me?" I said helplessly. At this time, Jake Williams had already walked over with the Green family, father and daughter. Robert Brown was very nearsighted and didn't recognize me. However, Olivia Green had sharp eyes and immediately saw me. She was a little surprised. She was wearing a white dress as usual, with her long hair loose, beautiful and pure, but her eyes were charming, both pure and seductive. I have to admit that this woman is a fox spirit. Even if she doesn't deliberately seduce people, maybe just a casual glance can steal a man's soul. Seeing that I was still sitting in my original place, Jake Williams immediately scolded, "Ryan Thompson, you bastard. Didn't you see Uncle Lou coming? How dare you sit there and not stand up to greet him?" Emma Johnson also quickly said, "Honey, stand up quickly. Uncle Lou and I are old friends. There's no need to be so polite." I smiled. Then, I took out a set of chess pieces from under the coffee table next to the gazebo with practiced ease. I also put the tea set back in its original place, so familiar that I couldn't be more familiar. Jake Williams glared at me and then said to Robert Brown, "I'm sorry, Uncle Stanley. This Ryan Thompson is just a lowlife and doesn't know the proper etiquette. Please don't be angry. Who wasn't from a lowlife background in their ancestors?" Robert Brown glared at him coldly, then looked at me, his expression changing, even rubbing his hands like an old urchin. "Little Miller, if I don't beat you today, I'll give my daughter to you." Olivia Green rolled her eyes, and I rolled my eyes too. Emma Johnson, Jake Williams, and Tom Davis were completely dumbfounded. Jake Williams watched Robert Brown sit down opposite me and start playing chess with me. He quickly walked over and said, "Uncle Stanley, do you know him?" Robert Brown said without looking up, "You used your grandfather's influence to ask me to introduce you to the owner here. The owner is right in front of you, but you don't recognize him and instead scold him for being a lowlife. Your Hayes family is getting worse and worse." Aw. Jake Williams was directly dumbfounded. Everyone else was speechless, too. Emma Johnson looked at me, her face full of shock. Like everyone else, she didn't believe that I would be the owner of this Thompson manor. Jake Williams was stunned for a long time before saying, "How is this possible? I heard that the owner here has a very good relationship with several influential figures from Metro City. But with Ryan Thompson's background, even if he sharpened his head, he wouldn't be able to get in touch with those people, right?" Robert Brown said impatiently, "I don't know about that, but Little Miller is the owner here. I can confirm that. Since you should know each other, consider it my introduction. In the future, your Hayes family doesn't need to ask me for help." Jake Williams felt like he had lost a lot. I glanced at him and casually dropped a piece. "The confidence you have to make me lose everything is because of the owner of this Thompson manor, and I am the owner of this Thompson manor. In other words, the confidence you have to make me lose everything is me. Isn't that ridiculous?" Jake Williams's lips were trembling. He never thought that the person he was desperately trying to curry favor with was the person he looked down on the most. At this moment, several staff members walked over. The person in the lead was imposing and had an air of nobility, but he was young. When Jake Williams saw this person, he was stunned for a moment, then quick. KLY walked over and bowed, asking, "Excuse me, are you from the Metro City Taylor family?" "Yes." The man nodded, walked around him, and continued forward. Jake Williams followed closely, smiling obsequiously. "I am Jake Williams from the Sunnyvale Taylor family. Our two families have the same lineage. Your Sunnyvale Taylor family once harmed our Metro City Taylor family and even tried to steal the family tree. So, the Metro City Taylor family kicked your Sunnyvale Taylor family out of the Taylor family tree a long time ago. Don't try to claim kinship anymore," the man said coldly. Although he was not very old, he had an indescribable pressure. However, when he walked up to me, he bowed first and then smiled brightly. "Brother Miller, do you think this outfit of mine is okay?" "Yes, it looks decent." I nodded with a smile and then said, "By the way, Zachary, your sister said that you can't go anywhere this summer, especially not to chase girls." "Give me a break." Max Taylor grinned and said, "Don't worry, Brother Miller. Although you're not my brother-in-law, in my heart, you're already my brother-in-law. So, I'll listen to you." He knew about Emma Johnson, so he said this on purpose. He probably saw the scene just now through the surveillance cameras. Emma Johnson's face turned even paler when she heard this. She wanted to approach me, but she hesitated. Jake Williams quickly asked, "Is your sister Isabella Moore?" "Yes, but is that any of your business?" Max Taylor asked with a cold face. When Jake Williams looked at me again, his eyes were full of fear. Max Taylor asked again, "Brother Miller, you said you wanted to celebrate your wedding anniversary here before. Are you still going to prepare?" "No need." I waved my hand and said, "Miss Sterling and I are getting a divorce." "Honey, you." Before Emma Johnson could finish speaking, she covered her mouth and cried. Olivia Green, who was having a great time watching the show, suddenly asked, "So, Ryan Thompson, you're married? Aren't you getting a divorce?" Robert Brown said nonchalantly, "Don't worry, little Miller. I still want to be your father-in-law. My daughter doesn't mind that you're divorced, haha." Olivia Green rolled her eyes again. I shook my head and smiled, then looked at Emma Johnson and the others and said, "You can leave now. Thompson Manor has nothing to do with you anymore." "Oh no, it won't be called Thompson Manor anymore. It'll be called Miller Estate." "Honey, listen to my explanation." Emma Johnson wanted to say something, but after colliding with my cold gaze, she burst into tears. I waved my hand and asked the staff to take them away. Tom Davis suddenly knelt in front of me and kowtowed fiercely. "Mr. Miller, I didn't mean any harm to you. Jake Williams made me do it. Please spare me." I ignored him and looked at the others and said, "The Richmond family in real estate, the Harper family that runs the live streaming media company, the Mitchell family that makes animation, you should all prepare to go bankrupt." Those people were all on the verge of tears. I took a deep look at Emma Johnson and said, "You always said that I couldn't fit into your circle. I always wanted to tell you that the pillar industries of these people in your circle rely on me to survive. But it doesn't seem to matter whether I say it or not, because I don't care about you anymore." Then, I waved my hand and had them driven away. That night, I returned to the luxury apartment not far from the company, which was also my and Emma Johnson's home. As soon as I entered the door, I saw Emma Johnson busy in the kitchen, and the aroma of the dishes I smelled was also what I liked. But I couldn't be happy because Jake Williams was also there. When Jake Williams saw me come back, he immediately trotted over, squatted in front of me to help me get slippers, and said, "Ethan, I know I was wrong. I came to admit my mistake. Please give me a chance." I didn't change my shoes, but walked in, not even looking at him. Emma Johnson came out of the kitchen, nervously wiping her hands on her apron, trying to squeeze out a smile, but my coldness drove that smile away. "Ethan, give me a chance to explain, okay?" Emma Johnson said. I sat on the sofa, lit a cigarette, and smoked it slowly. "No need, there's no need." I sighed. Emma Johnson quickly ran over, hugged my arm, and said, "Ethan, you know I don't like Jake Williams at all. I've never liked him. He's been spreading rumors in the past, but I didn't expose him because I was concerned about the relationship between the two families. This time, he came back and threatened me with your business, so I endured the disgust to wash his feet." Jake Williams walked up to me and knelt directly. "Ryan Thompson, what she said is right. Everyone in our circle knows that I've been chasing Ashley since I was a child. She's always rejected me. This time, I did use you to threaten her. You think her washing your feet is the key?" I sneered and pushed Emma Johnson away a little before saying, "Emma Johnson, we've been married for so many years, and you always say that I can't fit into your circle. You don't allow me to be present at your gatherings, and you even refuse when I want to have a wedding. You say it's because you don't want to see others embarrass me, but isn't it actually because you think my status is very embarrassing?" "Honey, no, it's not. It's not. You don't know how disgusting this circle is. They're high and mighty and always think they're superior. But you're my everything. I don't want you to be wronged, so I simply don't let you meet. But I didn't know that you could dominate their business. If I had known, I wouldn't have. Emma Johnson was interrupted by my wave before she could finish speaking. I said with a sarcastic smile, "You don't know that I can dominate their business because you never believed that I could do it, so you wouldn't even bother to find out how big my BU sinus is or check my social circle. Otherwise, you would have known long ago that those people in your circle are not qualified to embarrass me at all." I laughed self-deprecatingly again. "Emma Johnson, do you know what it feels like to be looked down upon from the bottom of your heart by the woman you love deeply? It's my fault. It's all my fault. I'll change now. Please, Ethan, give me a chance. You know that I'll die without you." Emma Johnson was already crying her eyes out. I waved my hand. "Stop talking. Let's get a divorce as soon as possible." Emma Johnson got up and went to the kitchen without saying a word. She took a kitchen knife back. She put her left hand on the coffee table and raised the kitchen knife in her right hand. "I washed Jake Williams's feet, so my hand is dirty. I don't want it, okay? As long as you can forgive me, I'll do whatever you want." With that, I quickly pushed her away, snatched the knife away, and then pointed at her and said, "You're the same as them. They think I'm from a self-made background, so I definitely wouldn't be the owner of Thompson Manor. You think so too. But I am. Do you know what this means? This means that our values are opposite. I'll admit whatever you say, I'll change, but I just won't get a divorce. If you force me to get a divorce, then I'll die." Emma Johnson shouted hysterically. At this time, the bodyguards also entered the door. I pointed at Jake Williams and said, "Throw him out." As for Emma Johnson, I was really afraid that she would commit suicide, so I could only leave her here temporarily. Although I left Emma Johnson behind, I didn't give her a chance to speak to me. When I woke up the next day, I saw her sleeping on the sofa. Not wanting to get entangled with her again, I quietly left. Back at the office, Ava, assistant, handed me a tablet and said, "Mr. Miller, someone is smearing you." I took it and almost laughed out loud. Because I was trending on social media, The headlines were quite interesting. Hashtag Sunnyvale business star Ryan Thompson having an affair with Metro City socialite Isabella Moore. Hashtag Ryan Thompson's affair leads to wife's suicide attempt. Hashtag Metro City Taylor family issues statement denying affair, citing business partnership with Ryan Thompson. Hashtag Isabella Moore releases statement acknowledging Ryan Thompson's marriage, but expresses willingness to marry him if he divorces. My head throbbed a little. I knew without thinking that this was Jake Williams's counterattack. Just then, there was a knock on the office door. Jake Williams strode in, smiling. "Ryan Thompson, although the Metro City Taylor family is supporting you, if Emma Johnson testifies that you had an affair, it will still affect you. Ashley and I are childhood sweethearts, and now she's heartbroken by you. Do you think she'll help me?" "State your purpose," I said with a smile. Jake Williams sat on the sofa and smiled faintly. "I know you're on good terms with several influential figures from Metro City. I've got my eye on a pharmaceutical deal in Metro City. Help me secure it, and I'll leave you alone." "No problem," I nodded. "Leave now, and you'll be contacted this afternoon." Jake Williams gave me a deep look and said, "I'll only give you 1 day." Then, he got up and left. I asked Ava to leave first, then made a few calls. In the afternoon, Jake Williams received a call. It was from an elder in the Taylor family, telling him to go abroad immediately to meet a big shot. Jake Williams didn't suspect anything and left the country immediately. Half a month later, news of Jake Williams's death came from abroad. He was hit and killed by a drunk driver while walking down the street. My expression didn't change much when I received the news, but there was a huge surge of emotion inside. Those Metro City people are ruthless. During those 2 weeks, That big shot was indeed discussing business with Jake Williams, and they had even gone over the contract. They were finalizing the details. And then, Jake Williams died. When they want to do something, they're very patient. No wonder Isabella Moore told me when she introduced me to them, dealing with these people is like dealing with the devil. I'm only introducing you to them because I care about you and can back you up. Otherwise, I wouldn't dare introduce them to you. And I met Isabella Moore because of business. At the time, Isabella Moore wanted to develop an internet business, but she didn't have time to start from scratch, so she wanted to acquire a mature internet company. I had an internet company under my name, which wasn't large, but had a complete team and a clean background. So, Isabella Moore took a liking to it. She found me and talked to me about the acquisition. When I realized that the woman in front of me was someone I couldn't afford to offend, and that she was reasonable, I agreed immediately. Later, we did some things together. Because her involvement in the internet industry was arranged from above, the things she did were related to manipulating public opinion. During that time, we worked day and night, and ultimately, the success of the public opinion war directly helped the success of the upper-level strategy. It can be said that Isabella Moore and I have a revolutionary friendship. It was also during that time of close contact that she developed feelings for me, but I rejected her. Later, she helped me expand my network. I was thinking about my past with Isabella Moore when the phone rang. I saw it was Emma Johnson calling. She had been at home for the past 2 weeks, and even though I ignored her, she still hadn't left. I answered the phone without saying anything. Emma Johnson said weakly, "Ethan, I was wrong, but I love you." I sensed something was wrong from her tone. Then wait for me to come home for dinner. I was worried she would commit suicide. No matter what, she loved me, even though her privilege gave her stereotypes about me. And she never really trusted me. But we had been married for many years, she had never betrayed me, and she had always loved me. So, even if we were to get divorced, I still wanted her to be okay. You guessed it, so you want to placate me? It's too late, Ethan. I'm already dying. Her voice was heartbreaking. When I rushed home, she wasn't there. So I went to her parents' house. My father-in-law and mother-in-law were all smiles with me, but I didn't have time to pay attention to them. Instead, I asked them if Emma Johnson had come back. They said no. From that day on, Emma Johnson disappeared from my world. I was depressed for a while, and even thought that I had gone too far. She knew she was wrong and could change, so why didn't I give her a chance? But what's the point of regretting it now? I was thinking that the feeling of regret I had at this moment was probably the same as the feeling of regret Emma Johnson had back then. A few years later, my business grew bigger and bigger, and the head office moved to Metro City. Isabella Moore and I became closer and closer, and the higher-ups arranged another project, with a high level of secrecy. We were going to be working together day and night for a long time again. One time, after getting drunk, she deliberately acted like a hooligan, and I went along with it, and then we got together. After the project was over, Isabella Moore and I got married. I always felt like someone was watching me, but I couldn't find that person. My name is Emma Johnson, and I grew up in the estates, gated community, of Sunnyvale. From a young age, I hated the atmosphere of the estates, gated community. They were always superior and didn't treat ordinary people as human beings, and when faced with people of higher status, they were willing to be dogs. I hated these things, but I was constantly influenced by this atmosphere. Because I was doing the opposite of them, I would seem out of place, and I didn't like that feeling. Jake Will. Eames from the estates, gated community, always liked me, but I rejected him every time. But our families had a good relationship, and I didn't want to embarrass him too much, so I didn't expose his rumors. Later, Before entering university, he publicly confessed his love to me, and I publicly rejected him. He was so embarrassed that he became angry and went abroad. I entered the university campus and was quickly attracted to someone. The girls all said that there was a senior who was hard to pursue. Handsome, rich, and good at studying, no one could catch him. His name was Ryan Thompson. He was handsome and refreshing, looked low-key, but had integrity. I took the initiative to approach him and asked him why he didn't agree to so many people pursuing him. He said that he was poor and couldn't afford the expenses of being in a relationship, and he didn't want to be a kept man. Moreover, he was starting a game company, so he didn't have time for romance and didn't want to waste time on love. But I could tell that he would always glance at me a few more times every time we met, and he would even take the initiative to say hello to me. And he didn't smile so much when he faced other people, but he smiled very brightly at me. He liked me, I was sure of it. Later, we got together, but I knew that we would be torn apart. My family and my friends would not allow me to marry him. But I threatened to die, and still married him. I knew he was already very successful, but I was afraid that my family would embarrass him, and I was afraid that my friends would embarrass him. And I couldn't give up my family, and I needed to maintain my friends. So, I didn't want him to integrate into my circle, which I thought was dirty. Later, Jake Williams returned to the country. He built many connections and threatened Ryan Thompson's business to try to get me to sleep with him. I wouldn't agree, and he wouldn't dare to force me, because he also knew that I would dare to kill someone if I won. Crazy. But in front of those people in the circle, he forced me to wash someone's feet to humiliate me. I thought, as long as Ethan was okay, I would endure it. But who knew that Ethan suddenly came? I wanted to send him away because Jake Williams would make things difficult for him, but who knew that he was the owner of Thompson Manor? And the reason why Thompson Manor was called Thompson Manor was because my last name is Sterling. Actually, at that moment, I realized where I had gone wrong. I was wrong in that I had never trusted the man I loved, and I didn't think that someone self-made could crush our class. But it was too late. So many years of arrogance and prejudice had worn away his love for me. I disappeared. I would occasionally sneak a peek at him. When I saw him depressed, I felt very sorry for him, but I was also happy, because he cared about me. Later, I saw him and Isabella Moore together, and then they got married. It was time for me to leave. Finally, I want to say to him, I was wrong, but I love you.